Hi there, thanks for joining us. I am just going to walk through the techniques in Julie Taylor's layout for, or layouts I should say, for Crafty Vixens. So if you already know these techniques, then please feel free to just use the instructions. But for those of you who maybe are new to these techniques or maybe like a little refresher, stay tuned and I'll go through them all with you. So this is the first layout by Julie Taylor. Of course, it's absolutely lush as always. And Julie's done a bit of stenciling on the background here. Some very light stenciling just to give a bit of texture. So I'll show you that technique. And she's also done a bit of splattering. So that's absolutely gorgeous. So for this one, although you've got the full instructions, and it does say in the instructions about gutting the paper, but I just wanted you to note Julie's actually cut out the back because she'll use a bit of this paper later on. And I can see she's also done a bit of testing there with her stencil, which is a great idea. And this white cardstock is really thick, so you'll find I often recommend, if you're not sure with something, try it on the back first, and then when you're happy you can flip it over and go ahead. So it's all part of the process. So we'll cover that stenciling technique. So that's the first layout. And then on the second layout, she has used the same stencil. Now, if you don't have this stencil, it is from Bramble Fox, but you could use any background stencil, so don't feel obliged to buy the one from Bramble Fox. Or, you don't have to use a stencil at all, so it would look just as pretty without the stenciling. So entirely up to you really. Or you could use the smooshing technique, which I've covered in the other video, my own layout. So either or, and I'm sure you can adapt your layouts to suit your photos and so on. So again, Julie's used stencil on this one, but this time with texture paste. So you can see the texture there. So using texture paste and stencil is really simple, so I shan't be covering that one. And she's also done some splatters on this one too. So she's got some white acrylic paint, watered that down and then splattered. I'll show you that with the Distress ink, same technique. So whatever medium you've got, you go ahead and use that. So beautiful detail there. So you may, she has done some stitching on hers. If you don't have a sewing machine, don't panic. You can always do some faux stitching, or actually you don't need it stitched. You can just distress your edges for that bit of texture. Julie always likes to put a lot of detail on hers, of course, which is fab. And then for the third layout, Julie again has done some inking techniques on the background. So this is a bit of smooshing here. So that again I've covered in the first video of my own layouts. So she's done quite a controlled bit of smooshing down the one side. And then afterwards she's gone over with a bit of bubble wrap. And I'll show you that then as part of today's video. Absolutely stunning. So on this one she has done a bit of stitching there, but again it's all covered in the instructions. And if you don't have a sewing machine or you don't want to do that, you could either doodle, you could use some stamps. It's just add a bit of texture behind the scenes there. So I'll just cover those quick techniques with you now. Again, if you've watched the first video, I have covered the smooshing technique, and then just be sure to watch that then if you need a bit of advice on there. And you can always pop into the chat thread or email us if you've got any questions. We'll be really happy to help. So let's cover just general stenciling first of all. I've just tidied my desk and lost my stencil. Here we go. So this is the Bramble Fox stencil, but you can use any stencil that you like. This is a bit of a second, so it's great for me to just demonstrate. Just get myself comfortable. So I am going to use Distress Oxide ink. I did mention in the first video the difference between the two inks. This is what I've picked out for no other reason than it was handy. I've picked out a brighter colour than Julie's used, just so it shows up on video. I think she's used warm lipstick by the looks of it. But you know, if you don't have that, use a distress ink, use another pigment ink, or dye ink, that will be fine. So just use what you've got, or a watercolour paint. So don't feel that you have to, you know, stick exactly how we've done things. We're not expecting everyone to go out and buy whatever we've got, because we've got a lot. So if you're unsure, if you know how to do stenciling, then great, you can fast forward the video. If you are unsure though, I'm using a bit of scratch paper here, a bit of photocopier paper. So you could just have a little practice, and I would highly recommend that. So there are different ways to do this. You can mark some ink down onto your messy mat. So I've got a messy palette here, pick that up. And then I always dab off, because especially with the Distress Oxides, because they are new, mine are really juicy, so it does pick up a lot of ink. So if I were to go pick some up now and go straight to paper, you get this kind of effect, which is obviously what we don't want. So I always dab on and then dab off the excess onto your messy mat. And you're going to go light circular strokes. So, you know, the lighter the better really, because the more pressure you apply, the more ink that's transferred, and therefore the more likelihood that you'll get this kind of effect. And we want really soft, subtle inking. So you're going to go light, 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 and then you can build up your colour. If you want a darker area, you can just continue over the same spot. And you can see how it fades to the edges and then much darker in the middle. So with a bit of practice, and I say, you know, do feel free to practice on the back of your layout, your white cardstock, because it is quite thick, or a bit of scratch paper. Just use those circular motion to go round, and you'll get a lovely faded edge. I just thought I'd cover some of the other blending tools that are around. So this is cut and dry foam. It's a Ranger product. It's probably the most economical way of getting some blending foam. I think it's about £5 or £6, like a whole, you know, 8.5 by 11 sheet, and it will last you for donkey's years. I think in the 14 years of crafting, I'm on my second sheet, and I've probably just cut off a little tiny bit. They do last forever. I just have one per colourway, and then when I get a tatty, you can just pop them in the bin. So you just cut off a chunk, and that's probably as good as anything. I still like that kind of as a blending tool. And then you've got the Ranger do a kind of one with a handle. The new ones are circular. I think the older ones were rectangular. And these have got detachable foam that stick to the Velcro on the other side. So actually this really does give a great motion. So, you know, you want to pick up some ink, make sure it's a little bit even. And then again, you're using the same techniques. You're going to blend, blend, blend. So, you know, especially if you're at the edge of something and you want to blend something out, I always start in the middle, blending outwards, because then you're going to get dark in the middle, lighter on the edges, like so. But, you know, just make sure you tap it off onto scratch paper or onto your palette. And then you'll hopefully avoid these harsh lines, as so. And then the last one I want to cover is I've kind of recently got into these kind of brushes, which are makeup brushes. I think I did mention it in the other video, who knows, I've got lost now. This one was from Primark here in the UK, but they are cheap and cheerful on eBay. And there's just lots and lots, as you can see there, hopefully. There's lots and lots of tiny bristles. So again, you want to pick some up, and you can see it picks it up really well. I don't suppose you should be doing that for your foundation. But actually this, I find, is actually the easiest way out of all of them, because you can go really light and then blend those edges out. It's quite forgiving. You get a lovely soft finish on those. Again, you know, you can find these on eBay, AliExpress or wherever. Don't pay lots of money for it, because this was, I think I paid £1 in the sale at Primark, and it's just as good as anything else you might find. I know some manufacturers are doing them with a hefty price tag, but trust me, they're all the same. You know, don't go overboard with those. So out of my 3 options, probably that's the cheapest method. Those are really good, easy to control, but I think this one's my favourite for blending like this. Not so good if you need to blend edges though, so if I wanted to just add ink to my edges of my papers or die cuts, that's probably cumbersome, and these 2 would be the best for that. So it's probably not one size fits all, and you'll probably need more than one thing to get that to work for you. So when you're finished with your stencil, just give them a rub with a paper towel to clean them up, because otherwise you'll find you'll transfer the ink next time and you might be using yellow or something. So that's the blending technique Julie's used on her first layout, and I'm just going to cover the bubble wrap scenario. So on her second layout, or third layout rather, she's done the smooshing technique here, and then to add a bit more texture, I don't know if you can see that, she's just got a little bit of bubble wrap very lightly here and there, and she's used hickory smoke for hers. So again, I've just got the picked raspberry here, and I'll just show you how I do it, and hopefully that's the same way Julie does it, the expert. So I've got some bubble wrap, whatever size bubble wrap you've got. I think Julie's looks slightly bigger than mine. The way that I've got it to work is I'm going to take my ink pad, and I am going to just tap some ink onto the bubble wrap there. So my thought on everything is you can always add more, but you can't take it away. So always go light first and then see how you get on. Use a bit of scratch paper, and then that way you're not ruining your perfect layout. So I've added some water, just sprayed plain water onto that, and you can see it beads up a little bit. So the ink's now reacting with that water and effectively diluting it. These are strong inks, so as I say, my picked raspberry is very strong. So I probably wouldn't want that directly onto my layout, so I'm going to tap it off on an area that I don't want. So a bit of scratch paper first. You can see it's quite dark, and you might need to do that 2 or 3 times to get the effect that you want. And she's gone quite light, so as I say, you probably just want, you know, either a very light touch or you know, just to dab off the excess first. So let me just try again, see if I can reproduce that. Let's try without the water first of all. So without the water, you know, you're just effectively printing with your bubble wrap. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water and tap off the excess, and then just lightly touch that onto my background. So you get a much lighter technique. Now, because it's wet, it will be a little bit darker, so it will dry a little bit lighter. So again, hopefully that's just giving you an idea of some of the techniques in Julie's layouts. So we've got 2 videos. So certainly if you are completing my layouts, do check out my video. I hope that has been some use to you. So we'd love to see what you're doing, so do share that with us, and I hope you really enjoyed the classes as much as we did. It'd be great to chat to you online, and don't forget, as I say, please do contact us if you've got any questions, or you need some help with a particular technique, or you didn't understand something. We are really happy to help. So thank you very much, and I'll leave you with one of Julie's layouts, and hopefully see you soon. Bye. you.